our Guillotine League. Shout out to Eric for doing these videos in our other league. I don't know if I'll do these every week, but I'm going to give it a shot and do a quick recap and a little forecasting to what I think is going to happen. Last week, we saw a pretty wide range of scores. Fleming up at 130, Jamie all the way down at 50. And some of you I know, so I know your names. Others, I took a guess of what your name is based on the username, and for some of you, I've no idea what your name is, so I apologize. Jamie gets chopped in week 1. His team had a dreadful showing. A couple guys were somewhat average. You got a decent performance out of Jordan Love, a good performance out of Jalen Warren with that touchdown. And at least Jamie's a big Packers fan, so at least his team got the big win, even though he gets chopped. But Devontae Smith, a no-show, Tracy, Montgomery, much worse than what they were projected. It would have been better if he didn't even start Caleb Johnson. It was a dreadful showing for his team. He did not last near as long as he did last year. I'm going to run through all the teams in the same order as the scores came in. This is Fantasy Pros. They show the position strength based on their rankings. And so in their rankings, Fleming has the number 1 QB, Josh Allen, the number 3 starting running back, and so on and so on. Just as a reminder, there's 17 teams out there. So even though the 12th tight end, that's still well above the last piece here. This is a classic Fleming team. The strong quarterback play is the longer we've played these Guillotine leagues with Fleming, he's a big fan of that. And honestly, Bijan and Josh Allen are going to carry you a long way, even with the rest of the team being in the red and yellow. P. Willie, I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is, but man, he had a great week last week. Javonte was spectacular. Zay Flowers was spectacular. He's got a handful of older wide receivers. Had a decent showing Monday night from J.J. McCarthy. The analytics do not love his running backs, and I think currently Fantasy Pros has Will Shipley as his RB2, who I don't think is going to see much work because I think he might be injured, and so I don't even think he's going to play. So I don't know what his RB2 situation is, but last week his team was fantastic. Brogan has a great 1-2 punch in the running backs. CMC gave us quite a bit of a scare, but he was fantastic and is maybe the only healthy member of the 49ers, him and Ricky Pearsall. And this is like the definition of just wait on your QB. It doesn't matter too much. Jared Goff had a bad game, and he still was fine. He scored the 3rd most points in the league. When you're in a Guillotine league, you don't need to take a QB, kind of that mid-range. Those top QBs are fantastic. But after that, you can wait. I know that a few people have that definitely have that thought. My team did pretty well last week. Caleb Williams, I want him to be good. That first quarter, really that first drive, I was like, I made the best draft pick with Caleb, and then the rest of the game happened. So I'm not sure how I feel about him long term, but I've got pretty solid flexes. I spent a good amount this week in Fab. Normally during the weeks that we'll have an update on how much people spent in Fab and go through the market, but that's not going to be in this first video. I'm pretty excited about Trey McBride as my tight end, especially in the TE premium, and hopefully I'll be safe another week. Reagan, classic Saunders here, a strong RB1 and a strong QB. Derrick Henry looked unstoppable. I don't know how many years he can keep doing this, but he was incredible. Cade Otton, I was really big in Cade, and so I was really disappointed to see him get 0 points. Maybe he'll bounce back, but with Mbuke, who have really taken off, I'm not sure there's going to be targets enough for Otton. Literally as I'm recording this, I get a text from Fleming that I believe your name is Kevin, and maybe you go by KO. So I'm going to roll with that until I get corrected. But Kevin's team had a great day, even though Gibbs was not as advertised. I mean, he caught 10 passes, which is incredible for a running back, and I'm sure he's going to bounce back from that dreadful performance. Maybe, though, Ben Johnson was an excellent coordinator, and maybe Gibbs is not going to be a top 5 running back, but we'll see. With Goddard questionable, I don't know who fills in that flex role. Maybe Cole Kmet or D-Hop, and Hopkins had a crazy catch this last game. But otherwise, just kind of a solid team. Laporte is great. And maybe Thielen starts getting in the mix now that he's been back a week instead of just a couple days. Z Riggs, Herbert looks like the real deal. He was awesome. He draws a Monday night matchup. I'll talk about that later, but there's a lot of Monday night players on this team. So he'll probably go into Monday not safe, just waiting on his players, but Bucky Irving looks great. I honestly, I think this is my favorite team other than my own. Like, these are players that I want on my team. I love Brock Bowers, obviously, in tight end premium. It's you're going to be starting Brock Bowers every week of the year, even in that final matchup. You could be starting, Bucky Irving, and if Justin Herbert keeps that up, like, he could be a starter for pretty much the whole year. DK and Odunze, I think are pretty good values. I was pleasantly surprised how well Metcalf played, even with the Pat Surtain, not Pat Surtain, the Sauce Gardner shadow. I hope Odunze gets more into that wide receiver 2, closer to the wide receiver 1. That means that Caleb Williams is playing well. So I'm rooting for this team, and this is probably my favorite team other than my own. Brian, his last name's Shank, and that's what I call him. He's got a lot of red on this page. He's got 2 17s. I am not a fan of his wide receivers, especially since Brock Purdy most likely is out. Mac Jones throwing the ball to Pearsall is not going to be a great thing. Maybe he is, but 17. That means that he is literally the last rated wide receivers and his last flex. Granted, things change around, so I took these Wednesday night. So these are the Fantasy Pro rankings Wednesday night. So things could change around, but maybe Justin Fields has another amazing game. Shank was really impacted, losing Xavier Worthy. That's why his wide receivers are so bad. Worthy was supposed to be up there, but maybe Cook has another fantastic game. But I think Brian's definitely on watch this week. Isaiah's got a great team, a lot of green, a lot of 1s and 2s. He is the top ranked team on Sleeper, so he's projected to have the most points. I think James Conner could have a massive week, but I do think Trey Benson is going to start taking some of that workload. I think James Conner in the next couple weeks is still going to be really good. I think this weekend he's going to be really, really good. I also think Trey Benson has a good game this weekend, but I think long-term James Conner might be headed towards a share of the backfield instead of just dominating the backfield. Nico Collins, I'll talk more about him later. Ibuka is a player that I wish I had on more teams. I think that's my biggest draft regret, is that I don't have Mbuka in more leagues because he looked like the real deal. And that Bucks passing offense has been good for years. Mayfield is a solid QB, and with Mike Evans on the other side, I think even with whenever Chris Godwin comes back, that Mbuka is going to have a real solid role in this offense. Landon has a really solid, a lot of 4s, 5s, 6s. Not a highly rated RB2. I think that's James Ford or Jerome Ford. Sorry. Chase Brown should have a good game. I'm a little worried about Puka Nakua's upside against Tennessee. I think Tennessee might actually have just a good defense. We saw the Broncos struggle a little bit on offense, and I think that wasn't because the Broncos' offense is not good. I think that Tennessee just has a good defense. So I think Puka's upside might be not quite as high, but I think there's probably enough here that this is going to be a safe team. Dak Prescott, hopefully, not hopefully. I hope he has a 0-point game as a Commanders fan, but I assume that he'll at least have a decent game. I think the Cowboys have the Giants, who look terrible. Chris, first of all, I want to just say nice job not spending all of your fab in the first week. So those who were with us last year, Chris, that first week spent all of his fab on Bijan Robinson, and that kept him safe for a while, but you need fab in this game. So good pivot there. Just spending 200 or 250 on David Montgomery. I think you can wait on quarterback, but if you do have one of those top quarterbacks, they can save you. Lamar, he's awesome. You can have multiple players flop on your roster, and when Lamar puts up a crazy game, he's going to carry you on. Chris actually has a few. I'm doing a negative regression, positive regression candidates, and Chris actually has a few of the players that I'll talk about later. Schmidt is kind of solid across the board. I'm a little worried about Kenneth Walker. I think Charbonnet is going to split the load, if not maybe even take over that 1A to 1B. So as an RB2, that's great. I just think long term, Kenneth Walker, instead of being a starter in the week 14, 15, he might be maybe a last flex or maybe a bench player in the end when you draft him and you're hoping he's going to kind of be up there. I think that Malik Neighbors, you're just hoping Jackson Dart comes in because Russell Wilson did not look good. Malik Neighbors is already frustrated. Drake May struggled a bit, but he gets the Dolphins, and we saw Daniel Jones have one of the best games of his life. I think Drake May has a great game this week. Bailey had a tough week. Scary Terry and Amon-Ra had just a slow start. Again, maybe Ben Johnson was a great coordinator, and the Lions are taking a step back. I still think Amon-Ra is going to be okay, but maybe not your top 5, top 8 wide receiver he was just a year or two ago. I think Terry's going to be fine. I think the being away from camp and just the contract dispute, it's going to take him a week or two to really get into the flow. I think that's probably why we saw Debo get so many looks. I think Debo's going to get a lot fewer receptions. Terry's going to get more of them. And he's going to be a great wide receiver too in the short term. Mason, a lot of really strong lines here, but also a lot of really weak spots. The worst tight end. I think Bo Nix bounces back in a big way. I would not have him 15th. I'd have him much higher than 15th starting QB. I can't remember where Caleb Williams is, but I would much rather Bo Nix than Caleb. Bo Nix ran 8 times last week. He ran 8 times for 18 yards. If he's going to rush that many times a game, he's going to be such a solid starter. Again, Tennessee might have just a really good defense, and we might see the Broncos have a great game this week. Saquon kind of had a boring 16 points. The Eagles that was such a weird game with Jalen Carter being ejected before the first offensive snap. Pollard survived the Broncos defense and can move on to an easier matchup. So I think Mason bounces back in a big way. I think he actually gets my prediction, top 3 score this week in our Guillotine League. Tom is on the AJ Brown roller coaster. He is I feel like a classic. Has some great games, and just every once in a while lays just a complete dud. Travion looks really, really good. He has a good matchup. I think he starts taking more work even just in week 2 from Ramondre Stevenson, and I don't know who Mahomes is going to be throwing to, but he's going to need to throw a lot. They're playing Philly, and he's going to have to be throwing. Their Eagles are going to be scoring, and somehow the Chiefs are going to have to keep up. Tom, I know you're not going to listen to this, but please move Juwan Johnson off your bench. He is going to be fantastic because he's the only one catching passes in New Orleans. Towards the bottom, Jay had a bad week. It looks like Breece Hall is actually a pretty good draft pick. I was really low on him. I thought Braylon Allen was going to be the player you wanted, and I drafted Braylon Allen almost everywhere and was quite disappointed after week 1. I still think there's time for Allen to take some of those carries, but Breece looked great, and I think he's cemented himself as the starter there. I do have a couple of these players listed in a later section, but I do wonder about Njoku. Does Fannin Jr. take any of the targets that normally would go to Njoku? I think all Cleveland players, things are so up in the air with who's starting week to week that right now Njoku is going to be great, or at least a very solid tight end. I don't think it's going to be a great long-term plan. Justin Jefferson, again, kind of a boring Monday night performance. It was really just boring might not even be the right word, but it was bad for 3 quarters and then had a great quarter. It just kind of ended with an average performance. I think he's going to be great. J.J. McCarthy, the longer he gets some starts in, that Monday night division game is a tough way to start your career. So I think Justin Jefferson is going to be fantastic. Johnny, he was kind of close to being chopped. It was a 20-point gap because Jamie traded away his good players, and the players he got back did nothing. But things could not have gone pretty much any worse for Johnny. The Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow stack did not work. Maybe next time take Eric's advice, especially as the resident Bengals fan. But maybe ETN was an excellent pick. I was totally out on ETN, again, thinking that he'd be splitting shares with Tank Bigsby, who's not even on the roster anymore. Manor, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. He saw 7 targets last week, and I think he converts more of those against the Rams. I think, again, they played a really strong Broncos defense, and as a rookie, seeing that snap share, there's a lot of great reports coming out of camp that he's going to be a good, solid player for them. And so I think that's a solid flex at the moment. There's no way Jamar Chase does the same thing in back-to-back weeks. So here's just a little graph of the 2 different ranking systems. The blue bars are based on sleeper. It's how many, basically when you open the app, it's like in the chopped, where are you? And then the red bars are the Fantasy Pros. It's a website called Fantasy Pros for those who don't know. A lot of their stuff is free, and so I can input our data in, and so you see there's a few large discrepancies. Like it has, like, sleeper has Mason really like a really good team. You want to be on the lower end. Like you don't want to be in the like 15 plus. But Sleeper thinks Mason's a top 5 team. Fantasy Pros thinks Mason is closer to the 13, 14. I think, like I said earlier, Mason's a team that I think is going to have a huge bounce back. So I'm more with Sleeper than I am with Fantasy Pros. On the other end, we see P. Willie has a Fantasy Pro score of around, I think, 4th, and Sleeper has him projected lower. Now, these projections are based on who you have in your starting lineup. So some of you may not have finished your starting lineup, and that could shuffle things around. Like I know I had mentioned that Tom hadn't put Juwan Johnson in his starting lineup, and he's projected like 3 more points than someone else. And that could bump you up a few spots. A lot of the projections are really close to one another, and even currently in Sleeper, the difference from last place to first place is 25 points, which is not a lot. So Tom right now is projected at 90.27. Granted, again, if he replaced Kyle Williams with Juwan Johnson, his projection goes up 8 points, and that would put Jay in the bottom projection on Sleeper. So it's going to be a pretty close week again. These are my ideas on negative regression candidates. I don't know exactly how I want to label this, but these are 5 or 6 players I think had a great week 1 that are going to either come back to earth or do very little week 2. Keon Coleman, I mean, he was fantastic. Everybody who played in the Bills-Ravens game had a great game. It was such a high-scoring game. But now they play the Jets. Sauce Gardner, for the first time, is shadowing. I don't think there's a Bills receiver that scares you, but I do think if he's going to shadow, he might shadow Keon Coleman. Metcalf only had 1 catch against when Gardner was covering him, and that 1 catch was that crazy, ridiculous catch that bounced off a bunch of people and just happened to land back in DK's lap. Sauce Gardner's a real deal. I think Keon Coleman could be in a rough day. Zay Flowers, the Ravens are playing the Browns. There's a good chance that they go up quickly. Derrick Henry has a couple big runs. Lamar has a couple big runs, and they don't need to pass. I think Zay Flowers could get out of the game script pretty quickly. I can't imagine he has another amazing week. J.K. Dobbins, I think this week he's probably going to be fine. I think long term he's not great. Injury risk, I think Harvey looks pretty good. I think he'll start taking more and more snaps as they go. Pittman, well, we went from playing the Dolphins to playing the Broncos. I'm not sure there could be a bigger gap between 2 teams. I assume Pat Surtain will see a lot of Michael Pittman. I can't remember exactly where Pittman lines up, but I do think Pat Surtain will see. We'll travel with Pittman a lot. One of my hot takes is that Tyler Warren is going to have just a great game. I think the Colts tight end is going to be fantastic because I think a lot of attention is going to be to Pittman, and Pierce is going to try to take go over the top. I think Tyler Warren's going to see a lot of targets and a lot of catches here. And Quentin Johnson can't. Whenever you think he's going to be good, he fails you. There's a chance that was his best game ever. I think this game he has 3 drops and is one of the most disappointing players of week 2. This list was much easier. On the other side, it's like Jamar Chase. It can't get worse. Bengals, how do you do this every year? You come out and you're just totally flat. You do nothing. Week 1, I mean, I guess you won the game. But maybe next year, Bengals, can you try on the first week a little bit harder? A.J. Brown, this is just kind of like your classic A.J. Brown. Every once in a while, he does nothing. He did this last year. Then there'd be a whole media storm about it, and the next game or maybe a couple games later, he'd have a fantastic game. I think A.J. Brown gets on the board, maybe gets a touchdown. He's going to see a lot more targets. I think Devontae Smith is going to have a huge game. He owns the Chiefs. Go back and look at the times that the Eagle. I mean, just look back at the Super Bowl. Devontae Smith just owns the Chiefs, and I think he's going to go off. Maybe I just hope that because he's on my team, but I think A.J. Brown bounces back here. Nico Collins, another easy one. Like, he had such a bad game. Can't get much worse. There's no one else to throw to. I am worried about the offensive line, but no one's getting in the way of targets there. I mean, Dalton Schultz is a solid tight end, and he's going to demand some targets, but no one else is on the team that's going to take away. And Nico gets end zone targets or red zone targets, and he's going to be great. Going further down from like our top wide receivers, I think Jameson Williams is going to be fantastic. I know he got the big extension. People thought he was in for a really big game. The Packers just came out and played harder and better than Detroit. I think Jameson has a great bounce back. I think long term he's going to be fantastic. I think one thing that was crazy, he ran more routes than Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think St. Brown took any plays off because of an injury or anything. So I think they really want to get him involved. He's a home run hitter, but can also, he can run most of the route tree. So I think he has a big year. I think this week he has a big week. Calvin Ridley was one of the players I was really high on going into the year. Really wish I had him in either Guillotine league, but I do not. He had the Pat Surtain shadow last week. Again, went up against a great defense, and now what did I say? They have the Rams, and it's going to be a lot. Sorry if you can hear the drilling. They're doing construction in my school. I think Calvin Ridley has a great game. I think Cam Ward is a real deal, and I wish I had him. And then kind of my more of a dart throw. Bashal Tutin, I love him. First of all, go Hokies. He's awesome. I got to watch him the last few years. He had 2 red zone touches before, and that was before they traded Tank Bigsby. So I think they're planning a real role for him. That's why I'm a little hesitant to say that ETN is going to be fantastic this year. I think the later on we get that they want to get Tutin more involved. And the fact that he already had a couple red zone touches, they already trust him handling the ball. He's getting some opportunities. Now, I don't think this is the week that he has a ton of opportunities, but you could do worse as a flex 3 than Bashal Tutin. Really disappointed I didn't get him in the waiver claims. I should have bid more. We got a doubleheader on Monday night. So we have the Buccaneers-Texans, that's the early game, and then we have a Raiders-Chargers, that's the late game. A ton of players are in this. I believe pretty much everyone here that I've listed as a starter. Baker, Evans, Mbuka, Irving, Stroud, Nico, Chubb, Otten, Schultz. And then our other game, Herbert, Hampton, Harris, Ladd, Allen, QJ, Genty, Myers, Thornton, and Bowers. I'm pretty sure, and maybe even Geno. I can't remember someone starting Geno. So certainly nothing is going to, I can't imagine things are going to be decided before we get into Monday night. I mentioned earlier that Z Riggs has 3 players. So he's going to have Herbert, Irving, and Bowers. Probably the chances are his top 3 scorers, and they could easily combine for 60 points. So we're going to see some crazy things on Monday. For those who know me, I will not be staying up for them, especially the late game starts at 10. I will be in bed way before that. But it's exciting when things can come down to the last day, and hopefully we don't have another Jamie performance where a team is just dead in the water way before and way too late. Okay, my hot take of who's going home. Obviously, there's different people who are projected lower if we go back to our projections here. Brian's projected lowest in Fantasy Pros, and Tom. Granted, Tom is projected lowest. I think he'll not be projected lowest. I think it'll be Jay when it's all said and done. But my hot take is that P. Willie goes home this week. I think the Cowboys-Giants game, it should match up well for Prescott, but I think it could be just an ugly division game. The Giants' front four, even their front seven they're good. That's the best part of their team. And the Cowboys won't need to score a lot. I can't imagine the Giants score a ton on the Cowboys. So I think it could be a game where it's just ugly. It's low scoring. Maybe a sack fumble. I think, as I said with Zay Flowers, I think the Ravens go up quickly and Zay doesn't get any work in. He also has Tyreek Hill on his team. I'm not sure Tyreek. He might just pull an Antonio Brown and retire mid-game. I don't think he's happy there. I don't think anything is going to go right with the Dolphins. So my hot take is that P. Willie goes home this week. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't know if anyone will watch this other than Fleming. If you have suggestions for it, please let me know. I want to grow this and hopefully do this each week. Good luck.